Today we're going to start with review how to sketch a line, how to graph a line. There's going to be two ways how you're going to get it. The first way, first way we're going to see it is what we call the slope-intercept form. Now let's talk about the slope-intercept form. There's going to be given in the form y equals mx plus b. So let me write this, y equals mx plus b. Now the m, the number in front of the x, right? The number that comes with the x, that's going to be called the slope of the graph. And then the plus b at the end with the sign included, I'm going to call this the y-intercept. So I'm going to call this the slope-intercept form, right? Because the first number you see is the slope and the second number you see is an intercept. Now, some of you might be like, why there's an m for a slope? And the slope doesn't start with an m. Why don't we use the s? Well, the mountains have slopes. That's actually where this thing comes from. The slope of a mountain, right? The inclination of a mountain. But not only that, but when we graph, the slope is the one number that's going to tell me how to move. So for us to remember what the slope does, it tells me how to move. And the y-intercept, the reason why we use the b for y-intercept, because when I'm graphing, that's where I'm going to begin. So the slope tells me how to move and the y-intercept tells me where to begin. So let's take a look. The y-intercept, right, I'm gonna begin at the y-intercept is this +1. This thing is gonna tell me I'm gonna start at the point 0, +1. The y-intercept will always have an x value of 0. And in this case, my y value is a +1. So if I plot that point, I get a point. Notice how we call it y-intercept because it is on the y-axis. Right? It has to be on the y-axis. Now my slope, the slope is going to tell me how to move. Now the slope is going to be a fraction. I hope it is a fraction. The top number tells me either up or down. Up if it's positive, down if it's negative. So the number at the top tells me up or down. The number at the bottom tells me, do I go to the right or do I go to the left? If I go to the right, it's positive. I go to the left if it's negative. Now, I see here, I have 3/2. So what this thing is telling me is I'm going to go up 3 and then 2 to the right. So from the point that I have, right, the point 0, 1, let me go up 3, 2 to the right. So that's going to give me this other point. So from the point that I had, I went up 3 and 2 to the right. Now that I have 2 points, I can just connect them. In order for me to get a line, I really just need 2 points. So I'm just going to make a line that goes through. Now do me a favor. Don't just connect them like this. It's not a segment. It is aligned. So do me a favor and actually connect a line. So make this to go straight. I make sure it keeps on going like that. So the slope-intercept form has to be the y by itself at the beginning. Y equals mx plus b. The slope tells me how to move, right? The number for the x tells me how to move, and the number by itself, the intercept, tells me where to begin. And I begin somewhere in the y-axis. Now here, let me rewrite the question here. Y equals 7x plus 3. The plus 3 with the sign included, that's my y-intercept, 0, 3. So I'm going to start the point there. Now my slope, I need it as a fraction. And it's only 7. I can always make a number into a fraction by putting a 1 at the bottom. So 7/1. Now what this thing says is I'm going to go up 7 and 1 to the right. Now, interesting though, from the point that I have, I cannot go up 7. I'm going to get out of the picture. When that happens, when the directions change it, when the directions get me outside of the picture, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the signs. That means I'm going to do negative and negative, right? Negative divided by negative is still positive, but I'm going to use this trick. I'm going to switch the signs. So if that one of them was a negative to begin with, change it to positive. Now this thing tells me now, let me erase this. Now this thing says go down 7 and 1 to the left. Now look, from the point that I have, let me go down 7 and 1 to the right. Now I have a point inside of the picture. I'm going to make a line that goes through the points. Let me try better. And that's it. 2 points is enough for a line. So as long as we have it, y equals mx plus b, this is how we're going to graph this. Now, another way we can also get it, we call this standard form. Notice how the x and the y are both on the left side. So the y is not by itself. Now, interesting part is that standard form, I have 3 things. I have 2 points. Now, this is going to give me information for 2 points, and it's going to give me the slope. All right. The first point I'm going to say is, what if x was equal to 0? So we're going to call this the intercepts, x-intercept and y-intercept. One of my points is going to be on the x-axis, and the other one's going to be on the y-axis. So I'm going to say, what if the x is equal to 0? In reality, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to ignore the x because it's 0. So it looks like 4 times y is equal to negative 12. So I have to solve for y, right? I will divide both sides by 4. And I get that y is equal to negative 3. So like I said x equals 0. So that way I ignore the x and then solve for y. The other point that I'm going to say is, what if y is equal to 0? So I'm going to ignore the y, the whole term, and solve for x. I think we can already see x equals negative 12. So cool. That gives me 2 points. I can easily graph one of them, 0, negative 3. But the other point I cannot graph. Right? When we have a problem where we cannot graph one of the 2 points, we're going to use the slope. Now, for the slope, let me just say the slope. Let me just say it is negative x over y. Okay, what I mean with that is the numbers in front of the x and the y. But notice I'm switching the number on the x. So my slope in this case is going to be negative 1 over 4. Notice I switched the numbers in front of x, and I'm using the numbers in front of x and y, but I switched the sign of the number in front of x. We call those coefficients, right? The numbers in front of the letters. So my slope says go down 1 and 4 to the right. Then I'm going to make a line that goes through my points. And that's it. So standard form, what it does, it gives me 2 points and a slope. If you can draw the 2 points, use the 2 points. But if you cannot draw one of the 2 points, then use the slope. All right, let's take a look at question number 4. I'm going to look at the 2 points given. What if x is equal to 0? Right, I ignore the x term and solve for y. Right, negative 4 times y equals 12. Divide both sides by negative 4. Y equals negative 3. The other one that I see is, what if y is equal to 0? So I'm going to ignore the whole term. 3 times x equals 12, so that means x must be 4. I'm even going to get the slope, because what if I need it? Remember, negative x over y. So it's going to give me a negative 3 over a negative 4. All right. My first point, I can graph it, right? 0, negative 3. It's right there. The other point, 4, 0, I can graph it. Have a slope as well. I'm not even going to worry about this. I don't need the slope. I have enough. So I'm just going to graph. I'm going to draw a line. The interesting part of standard form is that it gives me 2 points and a slope. Slope intercept only gives me 1 point and a slope. So if it's given to you in slope intercept form, just use the slope intercept form. If you have it in standard form, find the 2 points and the slope, and you should be okay.